I can only be me. And it has taken me decades to get there. And I want to tell you a little bit about this. Today's talk is about pride. It is Pride Month, right? Because in June in 1968, there was a riot in New York. And the next year, to commemorate that riot, they started the Gay Pride marches, and it's been Gay Pride Month ever since. But there's a lot of controversy. There always has been. Maybe there always will be. I like to affirm that there won't, that there actually we will come to a knowing and understanding, a place of real connection and real honoring of the human journey, every human's journey. But there's a controversy around the word pride, right? Because if you were raised in a religion, as I was raised Catholic. From the time I was born, I was baptized, went to Catholic school all the way through high school, went to church every Sunday. My father would walk us up the aisle and sit in the front row of the pew of the church, and it used to embarrass me to no end. And look at me now. Not only in the front pew, I'm on the platform talking about it. Life is funny, huh? Careful what you resist. Careful, because it is really the clue to what you have to explore. But the reason there's a controversy around the concept of pride is because biblically and scripturally, we've been taught that pride goes before the fall, right? It's Proverbs. Ooh, don't be too prideful. You're going to stumble and you're going to look just ridiculous, right? You're going to fail and it would be embarrassing. And we associate pride with arrogance. We associate pride in a lot of ways with haughtiness. We associate pride with superiority. I'm better than, I'm proud, I'm boastful. But what if actually pride wasn't the problem, but the medicine? Right? That if really what's afflicting the majority of the world is not that we feel better than, is that we feel less than. We've been told that who we are, or what we are, or how we present isn't right, isn't acceptable, isn't the best. And that pride is the medicine to fix that part of us that believed them, that believed the people who were telling you, oh, how you're showing up, that's not quite right. That's embarrassing, and ridiculed you and punished you. No, it is not, let me just be really clear, that is not exclusive to the LGBTQ plus community. I can get all those letters out. LGBTQ plus community, right? I won't trip over them today. It happens to all of us. It happens to people because of your gender. It happens to people when you get told that, no, that's man's work. Women, children should be seen and not heard. Women's place is in the home. And while that's changed drastically, there's still not equity in the workplace. There's still not fairness because white men and predominantly heterosexual white men still run the majority of the corporations. On this very platform, yesterday they were talking about funding for venture capitalists, right? And the venture capitalists, they have made amazing stride. Did you know that 60% of the college people in college, grad school, regular college, grad school, and doctoral programs in the United States, 60% are women? 60%. But do you know how much of women's businesses get funded? Out of all the businesses that get funded, 2%. 2% are women. So the disparity is still there, and we still get told that who we are isn't quite right. And what happens in that is we take on the belief that I need to change how I am, how I present, in order to be accepted, in order to succeed. And we're taught that we should be humble and modest. But what if the opposite of pride isn't humility, it's erasure? What people are trying to actually do is erase who we are. That people who believe that gay people are somehow evil and wrong are trying to make us not exist. And for years, it worked. Not that we didn't exist, but we went underground. We went into the shadows. I remember viscerally sitting at my childhood dining table, having a meal with my family, and when the subject of homosexuality came up, that they started ridiculing and laughing about gay people. Laughing and calling it gross and disgusting. Well, what did this little gay boy do? But go into hiding. Go into deep, deep hiding, and took on real shame. Now, shame is different than guilt. Shame is toxic because it posits that we are not just doing something wrong. We are wrong. And that difference is profound. Brené Brown also talks about it this way. She says, shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. So we don't take positive action in the world. We don't step out and do something brave or courageous because it is too dangerous, because we feel vulnerable. So that's why pride celebrations have become the antidote to that toxic shame. And I want to really expand it for all of us, because people of color, people of different races who speak different languages. In this country, we've been this great melting pot, supposedly, for the last 250 years that we've come together and all cultures come together. But that journey has not been straightforward and has certainly not been without its violence, without its degradation, and without its gross missteps. It's like from the differences from all the people who have immigrated here, who somehow, including until today, are marginalized and belittled for the places they come from, right? And so pride, I would like us to all be able to reclaim pride is not this arrogance, but as the antidote to marginalization, the antidote to shame, the antidote to sidelining of all of us, because each and everyone's divine expression is what we're here to celebrate. And I know we do that here at Unity San Francisco, but folks, it is time to be bigger. We have to do it beyond these walls and beyond the people who are watching us online. We have to do this larger than we've ever thought of doing it before. So I stood on this platform yesterday in front of this very diverse group of people here who were so beautiful. Oh my God, the majesty of the different races and the costumes and the languages and the ages of people who sat here and got to say about Unity San Francisco that we are creating a world that works for everyone. No exceptions, no exclusions. And so that little boy, that little girl, sitting at a table or going to school and hearing slanderous taunts from their classmates and from their teachers, knows that they can stand up and say, this is who I am. This is who I am. I am not a mistake. I am not an error. Like I said, it's taken me decades to get there. When I was living in New York City as an actor, I found great success. I went into musical theater. You see, I still got it. I found a place where I could be who I was and be celebrated. I got to be around like-minded people, and who I am at my core of my being was honored. But, shows close. None of them last forever, right? And the show business life is you're gypsies. You just go on to the next one, go on to the next one. You go on to the next one. I'm looking at them, seeing some of them here right now. What's the next gig? What's the next gig, right, guys? What's the next gig? What's the next gig? It's endless. So one of the things that when my Broadway show closed, I was looking at was a lot of actors in New York supplement their income and make actually a really good income being commercial actors. So I joined this commercial acting class. It was a studio that worked in New York where they would teach you how to perform for the camera, how to perform for commercials. It's a very specific, very niche organization. You have to get a special agent for commercials. You have to get a manager for it. You have to get into the auditions. You have to get the job. So I took the classes. I was already studying acting, so I went and found out about how to do commercial acting. And I loved it. I was like, oh my God, this is like 2 minutes, 30 seconds of really intense work, understanding all the nuance of it. So I went through the whole course, and then the lead of the whole agency, a professional who worked in commercials all the time, came in and saw our final productions where they filmed us, and we got the script that day, just like it would be at an audition. You show up, they give you the sides, you have a few minutes to look at it, you get in front of the camera and you look at it and you go. And I got this amazing script. It was about this guy who's getting Valentine's Day cards, and he's going to the mailbox and he sees all the Valentine's Day cards and he reminisces about his first Valentine. And it was just so wonderful looking at the Hallmark cards, and he says as he's opening his mail and he looks at them and says, I wonder if there's any Janes in there, thinking of the first girl who gave him a Valentine. And it was a beautiful little, you know how commercials can make you cry sometimes? It was one of those kind of commercials. And so I went in and I did it, and the teacher watched it, and she was like, amazing. That day I got a voicemail from her saying, I would love to see you in my office. And I said, sure, great. So I made an appointment with her. I go into her office and she said, your work is really good. I said, thank you. She goes, you really know what you're doing. She goes, but you're not going to get past the agents. You're never going to get the audition. And I just looked at her and said, why? She goes, because you come off too light. You're never going to get to the audition because the casting agents think you're too light. Her euphemism for gay. So I would never have a chance to show them what I could do as an actor. So this is early 90s in New York, and you would think early 90s in New York would be more evolved. But it wasn't. There were no out gay actors on television. There were none. Yes, on Broadway, but none in the media. None. Absolutely. Well, one, Harvey Fierstein. Thank God for Harvey, who I subsequently worked with. He's a godsend. So she suggested that I work on it, that she suggested a coach who would work with me so that I could get the jobs that I deserved. So I went to work with this woman who was going to work the gay out of me. Teach me how to be a real man, how to breathe correctly, how to stand correctly so that I could be the right actor. And I went through this process, and little by little, all my choices, and those of you who have studied acting and improv know that when you start limiting your choices, you suck as an actor, right? So my work got worse and worse and worse. And it came to realize in that moment that I was not doing this. It was not giving up who I am to fit into someone else's mold. And I would not compromise my truth in order to get a commercial. It was painful to give that up at the time. But it was also liberating. It was liberating that I didn't have to fit their mold. Now, what's wonderful is that the world has changed since. But for me at the time, that was heartbreaking. I love what Oscar Wilde said about this. To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance. And that's what I started from that moment on. That I was not going to give up my truth, myself. I wasn't going to hide who I was in order to make other people comfortable. That I wanted to find out how to love me exactly as I am. And that's what I want for all of us, is to be able to love ourselves. Pimples, freckles, faults, it's all okay. Our sexual orientation, our identity, our gender, our race, our ethnicity, our education, our wisdom, our lack of certain things, status symbols, our age. I am so proud to have made it to this point in life. So proud, so grateful, because so many of my friends did not. So many they buried, they said goodbye to, long before they were supposed to have left this planet. I am here to have this lifelong journey, a journey that is mine to share. So that woman and that experience, I have never told that story before, other than to a group of small friends. I've never told it publicly. Right? But when I was going through this process, I remembered it and went, oh, that's what they mean about erasure, right? They're trying to erase who we are. We don't exist, right? So you see it in how we all take things on in different ways. We have to pretend we're something rather than being who we are. And what happens is a homogenized, less than, fake society where we all pretend and nod rather than a rich, engaged, culturally diverse, and prosperous community. That's what I want to create here. That's what I want to move us into. You know, being able to do this for all people who are marginalized, being able to tell stories like this is both liberating and a sanctuary. And I found this quote from this Indian author, and I just really loved it. Our strategy should be not only to confront empire, and I love that, right? To confront the hierarchy, right? But to lay siege to it with art, with hope, with our ability to tell our stories, right? To tell our stories completely and fully. And Arundhati Roy, I loved this quote. I have no idea what else he wrote, but ChatGPT gave me this quote. So I'm going to find out, but I just wanted to share it with you because the idea is that not only is how we lay siege to what is by being 100% who we are, but it's also where we find our sanctuary. It's where we find our safety. It's where we find our joy. God, Spirit, universe, source, Jesus, is not afraid of your truth. Actually rejoices in it. Have you ever heard that in church before? No, because most mainline churches, most mainline organizations will just not tell you that. That this thing we call God, this energy we call life, this truth is here to celebrate us because it's what makes us. We are all part of this one power and one presence. So the idea that God itself would condemn or judge us is nonsense. It's absolute religious nonsense. And unless we can really grapple with that there is nothing and no one that Spirit will condemn, that there is nothing and no one that will be called outside of God's compassion, outside of God's love, of God's joy, then we really don't understand this word we're calling God. We're making it some punitive parent. We're making it some punitive teacher who told us, oh, that's not right. God, universe, Spirit is bigger than we can ever conceive. Just to give it a name is ridiculously limiting. And also, when we can understand that judgment is our own, that we may have a judgment of ourselves that we have taken on from our parents and our teachers and our loved ones and society as a whole, and think, who am I? You are a magnificent expression of God. I am proud of you for being here, for showing up, for letting your light shine, for being the change that the world needs. Your having pride is saying yes to life. Your having pride is saying yes to your creation. Your having pride is yes. You're saying yes to life itself. Your having pride is saying yes to the divine. Yes, I was made this way for a reason. Yes, I was made this way to make a difference. Yes, I was created as this so that I may show the world what true wealth and power and strength are.
Amen.
All right? Us pretending that we don't, that we're not, that we are afraid doesn't help. But to stand up courageously and say, this is who I am, is the greatest act of spiritual courage. I want to make this clear. Sin is an archery term. In English, it means missing the mark. It's not a black mark on your soul. It just means a mistake. Just a mistake. So pride is not a sin. Shame is the sin. Shame is the missing of the mark, of taking on that toxic shame. And pride is the medicine. Pride is the solution to it. This is raw for me. This is important for me. And I hope it helps you. I'm going to say these statements. They're the negative versions. And I want you to affirm the positive ones. So when it comes up, you are going to say and affirm the one behind the one I say. I am not a sin.
I am a miracle.
I am not a sin.
I am a miracle.
I am not a sin.
I am a miracle.
I do not need to hide.
I was born to shine.
I do not need to hide.
I was born to shine.
I do not need to hide. I was born to shine. Now, this last one I want us to stand for, all right? So if you're able and if you're willing, I want you to stand up and feel this full body one, right? Because this is important that we take this on, right? Pride is not the fall.
Pride is rising.
Pride is not the fall.
Pride is rising.
Pride is not the fall. Pride is the rising. Let's take that to our time of meditation.